name is Ralph Giordano, and my occupation is I'm a filmmaker, so producer, writer, director, that kind of thing. And how I first got interested in it was I was a teenager and loved films and wanted to make movies. I think, as with anybody, when you're looking to what your career goals are going to be, you discover, I think, at an early age if you have any talent as an artist. And, you know, at first I thought maybe writing would be it, or maybe painting or something like that. But I really realized that after a while that it was filmmaking that where my heart was. I loved watching movies even at a young age, so I wanted to do that. I wanted to make an impression in that art form. You know, I was very fortunate. When I was in high school, we actually had a program that was very unusual for the day, because that was back in the 70s. It was a 2-year program that really kind of prepped you in photography and videography and that type of thing. So that prepped me for going to university, and I went to film school. I went to university. I went to New York University, and so that kind of like set the tone for like where my career would go. Well, you certainly can't have a thin skin. For any artist, really, because you're going to find people that appreciate you or don't. So the thing of it is I think just to be, personality traits, I guess, would just have perseverance, you know, and keep going. You know in your heart if this is the career for you, because it's not easy. So I would say that probably is one of the biggest things, is just perseverance. You know, and that fluctuates. That's kind of a hard thing to really answer, because it depends upon where you're going to be. You know, I mean, starting salary, like, you know, working in cable television, or starting salary working for a small company, you know, starting salary, you know, it could be anything. So that's kind of hard for me to answer, because it kind of fluctuates, and it fluctuates from city to city, town to town. You know, I am a freelancer, so it means I work when I get the work, you know, so I have my own company and I find business. You know, I have worked for other people in the past, so it's kind of different. You know, it depends upon which path you want to take, you know, the safe route, you know, or, you know, the more risky route is being on your own kind of thing. So, and it just fluctuates job to job. Sometimes you're just, you bid out, for instance, if you're independent like I am, you bid out jobs, and hopefully people will then accept your bid and you work for them. Well, it varies. Depends upon if you're on location, or if you're on a shoot, or if you're just writing, or you're just editing. Your work environment could be your office, you know, or your home, or you could be on set, you know. Right now, you're at an office that we have at Cottonwood Center for the Arts. And I'm part of a nonprofit group called the Independent Film Society of Colorado, and this is where our office is. So I'm their festival director as a volunteer. So, so I'm in this wonderful artist environment, which is really great. You know, not everybody gets this. You know, you're in a building that houses over 100 artists of various, you know, mediums, and so it's really kind of nice.
And then kind of a follow-up question of like, how many hours would you say you work in a week, and what kind of different people do you work with?
Well, hours in a week, if you're, you know, if you're really busy, you could be, you know, 50, 60 hours a week. Or it could be nothing if you have nothing going on, you know. So if it depends upon if you're working for a company or if you're just, you know, independent. And even the independent guys and gals can, you know, be very, very busy. You know, for instance, for me, I mean, I as a producer now, producer-director, I chose to work with cinematographers, or DPs, director of photography, or an editor, rather than me do it. It depends upon the project too. If it's a small project, I'll do everything. If it's a larger project, I'll bring on a crew. So those are the kind of people you work with, you know, and you meet new talent all the time. So I'm a bit older, so I work with a lot of younger people. So I like that influence. I like the up-and-comers. I like the fact that they bring something new and fresh, and I learn something. Plus, they learn something from me too. You know, I'll give you an example of a shoot that's coming up. And it's for an organization here in town. So basically, I am working, is an interview kind of format, so kind of like what we're doing right now with a single camera. Only there are going to be multiple people. So each person's making a presentation. And then I'm hiring somebody who's going to walk around with a microphone to do Q&A for other people who are observing the presentations and then commenting on it. Then we're taking those files and I'm giving them to an editor to be edited into small little segments. So each individual person's interview or presentation in a separate file that then has to be viewed later on that day in a classroom environment. So we have to do this quick turnaround. So we have to shoot and edit 12 pieces all by certain time. So if we're there at 8 o'clock setting up and we do all the interviews between, let's say, 11 and 1, then by 3:30 we have to have everything delivered so that they can view everything by 4. So that's kind of an interesting day. Usually that doesn't happen. Usually you get to edit stuff and take it home, whatever. But this is something that is, it's a very unique kind of program. So sometimes you'll have something like that. Another organization I work with in town is a nonprofit, and again, it's like an interview show, but we get to pre-interview the guests weeks in advance and know who they are, and they get to know who we are, kind of come up with an idea of a script, of a storyline. Then we'll come back and we'll interview them. They're a lot calmer because they've met us already, and we stop and start, pretty much what anybody does in production. And we capture B-roll, which is things that they've talked about, or their environment, or something that they're doing in a day-to-day thing, and then we edit all that together later and then present it to the client, and they either approve it or they tell us we want some changes. We make final edits, and then we deliver the project to them for their marketing use. I think, well, the benefits is that sometimes you can get paid a lot of money for the work you do. Another benefit is the satisfaction of doing something that you love to do, no matter what it is. I mean, the range of work that I do is from marketing commercial work to training to independent productions that I do on my own. I make my own films and enter film festivals. So that there's a benefit. The challenge is working, getting the work, or the challenge is raising the money to do your own project. As with any artist, there's a certain amount of money that has to go into making something. And with filmmaking, it could be anything. If you're making a narrative film, then you need actors and music and locations and that kind of thing. But if you're an experimental filmmaker, maybe not. Maybe your film is just about the sunrise, or it could be a poetry piece. So it depends upon what the project is and how much money you want to put into it. So I think that's one of the challenges, is just coming up with the funding. You can hear a lot of artists say that. It's always, where to get the funding to produce your work so that you can present it to the world. Well, it just depends upon who you are. I think if it's the kind of job where you're doing a lot of commercial work and you're on the road a lot and you're doing, national work, that might be kind of tough. If you're localized in town or in wherever town you live, then maybe not. You kind of work around that. I mean, I've had jobs where I worked weekends, and had to do events in the evening, so you do have to juggle your time. If you're a filmmaker or if you're a commercial worker like I am, it's whenever the event is and when you're hired to do it. So it just depends upon what kind of family life you have. Freedom. Yeah, the freedom to be able to do what you want. Most of the time, obviously if you're working for a client, you're adhering to what the client needs, but you also get to express yourself and tell them, well, here's something that I think that maybe we want to do. It's best when you're in a very collaborative environment, and I've been very, very fortunate for the latter part of my life is to work with a lot of different people who are extremely talented and extremely forward-thinking that I could collaborate with and actually bring me forward as well. So I think the collaborative aspect of it is something that I really, really, really enjoy. That depends. I mean, it changes every minute, so as far as technology is concerned, yeah, that keeps changing, and you have to keep up with it and spend a lot of money. Hence what I was talking about earlier about costs and funding and whatnot. So if you're an individual, yeah, you have to kind of keep up with the trend, So that's one of the big changes, I think, is that I think also the fact that in this particular industry that you're kind of pursuing too, so many people have learned to do filmmaking on their own and learn through watching YouTube and Vimeo and maybe even not other films, but just that kind of thing, and then picking up their iPhone and making art. You know, that's certainly changed everything, because now really anybody could be a creator. You know, it's put in the hands. Now, can everybody be a really good creator? That's up to you. Well, one of the things that has helped me is always have a mentor, and that's why I mentor a lot of other young people. So I think having somebody older to kind of show you the ropes is really, really good. But I kind of knew that, so it wasn't something that I didn't know. The advice I would give is just, again, I said earlier, was perseverance. If you know that this is the career that you want, then you're just going to stick with it. And you have to have that tenacity to keep going, because there are a lot of people vying for the same thing, you know. People vying for the same jobs, same positions. If you're making a film, entering film festivals, a lot of people are entering them. So it's always kind of a competitive environment. So you have to kind of be okay with having a competitive edge. So if you don't like that type of thing, and if you don't like criticism, then probably not the right thing for you to do.